Hi, my name is James O'Halloran. I offer coaching services in Bristol and online, and today I just want to talk a little bit about grief. I work with a range of people from entrepreneurs and founders through to career changers and people who are neurodivergent, offering coaching services one-to-one or with teams. And I provide that here in Bristol or online. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about grief. Grief is something that's come up a lot for me in the last few years, and also I see it in my clients. Um, Grief is somewhere between anger and shame, and it can kind of, depending on how you're tending to the grief in your system, it can express itself or fuel the anger, or it can cover over the shame that's in your system. And it's, in my book, it's a really important thing to be aware of and to look at, trying to tend to it and ideally kind of empty it out over time. I'm not talking about the type of grief necessarily when somebody dies, which is often the way grief is associated and talk about it. I'm talking about all the little ways that during your childhood and since, all the little injuries and little hurts, the things that didn't go well, the job interviews you didn't get, the promotions you might not have had, the investment you didn't receive, the clients that didn't deliver, all these little ways that you miss out or lose out or your expectations weren't met across so many parts of our life. This is happening all the time, and we're accumulating this sense of sadness and this sense of grief in our system. And what I've found through my own experience of life, but also through my clients, is that when there's a pool of grief in your system, which frankly I believe most of us have, it can block you and keep you stuck. And it can kind of show up in shadowy ways that we don't expect and haven't really accounted for, or haven't made space for in our lives. So my recommendation and what I suggest to clients is that you kind of go to the grief and tend to the grief. And there's lots of ways to do this. It'll be interesting to understand what works for you, but for me, I went through a long phase of feeling a lot of sadness and a lot of grief, and it would I could feel it coming up into my throat, and then it's like there was a protection mechanism, and it wouldn't go any further, and then it would dissipate. So I could feel the kind of first touch of it burning in my throat, maybe a little bit of wateriness or pain behind my eyes, and it wouldn't come. And I just wanted it so much to kind of release, and because I could feel this kind of, I guess, energy or stuckness in my system. And eventually the thing that worked for me was breath work, attending breathwork workshops and retreats that had breathwork as part of it, and that really helped me bust through, I guess, a big dam of that was holding back a lot of grief, and there was a lot of tears and upset and big releases as part of me doing work on that. But I think it doesn't need to be so dramatic. You can also access grief in different ways, like maybe reading a sad book or watching a sad film, perhaps journaling on things that were upsetting for you, even as far back as when you were a kid. It's still worth trying to purge and give space and time to these things. When you're tending to the grief that's inside you, which there is actually grief tending retreats that you can go on, which I haven't done, but I believe are excellent. It just creates more space. It creates more capacity to show up and be present and conscious in your life. So if you resonate with this video, or you have a sense that actually, there's some things that have happened to me that I'm still sad about, or that I haven't fully processed, it's really worth turning and facing into that. And as they say, you can't heal what you don't feel. And I do believe that that's true. It's certainly been the case in my experience. And it can somewhat feel like letting go of the sandbags off the hot air balloon, when you're managing to kind of tend to the grief and the hurts and sadness that's inside your system. I just encourage you to find a way that works for you. As I said, breathwork works for me. Maybe that would work for you as well. There's, in most cities these days, there's people offering breathwork workshops, and it might be worth your while stepping into that space. But there might be other things that that brings tears, or that releases grief in your system. And it's already been proven that in tears they can find like the stress hormones, so it's a good way of releasing stress and tension from your body. And I think we're still in a space where there's a lot of shame about crying, and we don't really know how to hold each other or support each other in grief. We're constantly trying to fix it, or kind of block it, or pretend it's not there, or cover it over. So my strong encouragement is to not do that and turn into it, and maybe find a supportive friend or partner, or therapist, or a coach to process some of the things that have happened to you. And I hope that if you take this path, that in time you'll begin to release it and feel a bit more vitality in your system. Good luck. See you again.